All right, guys, we're here on DMV Dealmaker Saturday edition. I'm Josh Cohen. This is John Ma, my co-host.
Guys.
And today we're live with the Zelaya Companies, Rachel and Jay Zelaya. And we have a special treat for you guys. They are actually in a project that they just finished in Arlington, Virginia. The house is absolutely outstanding. And they're going to give you a quick live walkthrough of a finished product to start this segment out. Rachel and Jay, so great to have you guys today. If you guys want to give a quick introduction, maybe folks don't know those Zelaya companies. If you guys don't, you should. They do phenomenal projects throughout the DC region. They are a known entity in this area. For those of you guys who don't know them, this is Jay, that's Rachel. They are a power couple in real estate. Why don't you guys give us a quick introduction and then show them this outstanding project?
Hey guys, I'm Jay Zelaya, my wife Rachel. We, like Josh was quickly introduced us, we do a lot of projects in the DMV area. We love this space. We live and play here, so this is home. And one of the cool things about today is that we're actually at one of these that you guys get to see that just hit the market 2 days ago, and it's already gone same day as listed. And I think you guys are going to get a pretty good glimpse at what we do. So then, as we go through this this video together, you'll start to understand why we do it. So that's a little bit of who we are, and you'll learn more here as we go.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do the tour. And real quick, what's the address, or at least what area?
This is 2118 North Cameron Street in Arlington, 22207. That is in the Highview Park subdivision, sort of a small little subdivision. We're right off of, what's the highway?
Lee Highway?
Right off of Lee Highway.
Right, okay. Cool. Yeah, that's a really nice neighborhood.
It's really great. I mean, you know, the attention this house has gotten because of the area is phenomenal, and two, because of the design. So it's a great space. I mean, there's a lot of folks moving here. A lot of development, you know, with the Amazon HQ being, you know, being brought around here like really soon, and like those plans and the metro and everything else going on around here. It's happening quick, but it's a great space. You're right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's go for that tour. I'm excited.
All right. Do you want to, let's go outside. Start out there.
Okay. And real quick, I'm kind of curious of the numbers. So this is, you guys bought it as a flip, right?
That's correct. Yep.
We did. So it was actually an old church. So it was a commercial space. It was a one-level church, and the church decided to sell because they were getting a new. Let's go out further. They wanted a bigger space. It could only hold maybe about 40 people or so.
Gotcha.
You guys see it okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Is the sun too bright, or you're good?
No, this is
perfect.
This is awesome. It's perfect.
So yeah, so we have a really cool. Well, that's us, but that's the really cool roof line on the top. It's very modern.
Wow.
Really kind of minimalistic design with the cedar siding on the front and the board and batten on the top, black windows. Really cool.
I'll let you guys follow Jay.
Just simple concrete, you know, to make it really basic kind of sleek design, and some lights guiding the path here towards the inside, which is really cool. Really also minimalistic landscaping, but totally like we were saying, that the cedar on the ceiling and on the wall, it's just like really makes this house pop, you know. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so you got to go to the outside. So we'll carry you in, literally on this laptop.
Then we have a mudroom here, and we are following some of the trends with the new dog wash idea.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That is really cool. That's really cool. I was gonna say, you know, Arlington's really dog friendly, and I'd say just about half the population have dogs here. So that's a really cool feature.
That is. Oh, I see. So it's like part of the mudroom almost, sort of, is the dog wash. Interesting. That's a cool idea.
It's a perfect spot for it.
That's cool.
Yeah, on this one we opted for no garage, which was a little bit of a risky move. So we had to find a way to still get a mudroom in the entry. So we have a living room.
Living room is here, which is like formal, but in this house it's not formal, but that's what we consider, I guess. Dining and the kitchen all the way on the rear, with the family room on the right.
Wow.
You see the cove lighting up top, which is really cool. And at night, at twilight, it looks amazing. If you could see kind of up in here and all the way around.
Really nice.
Put the rope lighting. Then you have the kitchen. We like to do the double stack cabinets there for extra storage.
I was gonna say that's a really cool feature, actually.
Yeah, you get the height, and you could even do a 30-inch or a 15-inch above, but we went with a 42 and a 12 built
Wow.
in. Fireplace with a patio.
So how many square feet is this home?
Just shy of
We're about 2,800.
2,800.
2,800, yeah.
It's about
And then
4
there's
feet per
It's on
floor.
a slab, so there's no basement. We decided to leave it that way and not, excavate a new basement on it, because we'll get into that, but we've noticed trends that, folks are not wanting these 6,000 square foot houses anymore. It's just so much space. One,
Yeah.
two, real estate here is kind of up there as far as price. So then, you'd be paying triple, right? So.
Absolutely.
I don't know,
So this was a 40-person church before, you were saying?
Yeah, it was a 40-person church.
Wow.
Yep. And it was owned by the same family for decades, and they decided to get a larger facility and sell it.
Wow.
So we did have to go through some zoning, which is fun, as you know.
Yes, of course. You know that, right? And no matter what county you're in, that's always fun.
And then here we are coming up to the master. So the master is vaulted ceiling, goes up to 13 feet.
Oh, that is cool.
And then you have a private balcony off of here.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yep. And we took that cedar ceiling over here too.
Heater on the ceiling there too. Wow.
Yeah, pretty
It's all
cool.
Jay's idea.
Yeah, well, little stuff adds up,
Yeah.
Cool. And then you get into the master ensuite bath. Little stuff adds up.
Nice.
Yeah. Soaking tub. And then we like to add some nice features like 3 shower heads in our 7 by 4 foot showers.
It looks really good. Really good.
There's some window in there to get some natural light into the shower too, which is great.
I like how your ceiling like slants up to the top. That's a really cool feature in the master.
It is. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we decided to do it just in the master, just to give it that master feel, because we could have taken it across, but it would have been then down the hallway, and we felt best that if it was just in this grandiose kind of.
Yeah, it makes the room look really big.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
and then it obviously has a walk-in closet and all that other stuff, but it's turned out really well for us.
I don't want to go too long on the tour, but we have a nice laundry room up here. And then you have all of the upstairs bedrooms. One has an ensuite. And then the bathrooms, we have some fun with the tile, doing some hexagon tile. We have
I
some
really
fun
like
with
your
it.
floor too. Like, what color is your floor? It really makes that house pop. Like it's a lighter color.
The wood floor?
Yeah.
So the wood floor is a white oak.
It's a white oak with like a whitewash and a gray ash mix. So it's actually a custom color that we mix ourselves, believe it or not. And so, yeah, you can't just pick it up. So we really like the texture that it gives to the floor. So we use it a lot, So, but we appreciate it, and it's wide planks. It's really cool, and it's throughout the entire place, first floor, second floor, everywhere. So it really brings out the black, in the hardware, bathrooms, doors, and everything. So it's pretty cool. Check out the address too if you get a chance, and you'll see a lot more photos. It'll go into all the other bedrooms and such.
So you got to tell our viewers. So you picked up a church that used to hold 40 people, and you just sold a house in Arlington for $1,259 on day one.
It was actually over asking price, Josh. I'm gonna correct you there.
Over asking.
Yeah, over asking price.
Yeah. So
tell our viewers, like, if you can, like, how this deal went, like, from purchase to sale. Like, how did you lock it up so quickly? How did you buy a church? What was, entry to exit on this?
So we got it working with a wholesaler that we've worked with for years. He knows us personally, and that's something that we like to share with other investors, to build your relationships with wholesalers in this business, because as you guys know, it's a relationship business. And Jay has been very, very strong on that, making sure that we're building relationships, and we're treating people right and with respect. So we have handshake agreements and how much they get paid, ahead of time, and say, hey, you find us a good property, we pay you, we compensate you fairly. So we get a lot of deals sent our way because they have relationships and friends. So it was a friend of the wholesaler who brought it, and we looked over the deal, and it took a few months, I think, to put it together, but we didn't have this exact vision in mind. We said, well, we can add another level to it and put a house there. But then as we went through the zoning process and they were telling us, what we're allowed to build, we came up with this vision for this home.
Yeah, right. So, like you're saying, 40-person church, and you can imagine the obstacles, because the pastor has actually, the head pastor who ran the church for easily 30 years had passed. And so this was left to the church to figure out what they wanted to do. And so then that's where we got involved, and sorting through that took a little while, as you can imagine, a few months, but we were able to get to the other side of it and really create something that is completely just, different than what was here. And the neighbors are just so excited, one, to see something totally different in the neighborhood, and two, to actually get inhabitants in here, because the church had been vacant for a little while. So it's a really good thing for the neighborhood and for us to be able to put out a product like this.
That's phenomenal. Real quick, can you walk us through the zoning process? I think a lot of viewers may not be too familiar when it comes to dealing with zoning, and I know a lot of people are just kind of dealing with cookie cutter renovations. Just kind of talk about some of the challenges you guys went through, and whether you guys knew what you could already do with it, or whether it was something you had to talk to an architect with afterwards.
When we look at a deal like this, the fact that we've done it so many times really helps, because you start to understand the regulations, right? So depending on what zoning code you're under, there's certain setback restrictions, right? So there's a side yard requirement for left and right. There's a front yard requirement. There's a rear yard requirement. There's a height restriction. So you do some of that research preliminarily. So you say, hey, if this property's zoned R2, residential 2, for example, we know that we have to have 25 feet front yard, 12 feet on one side, 8 feet on the other. And on the back, it's a 35-foot setback, for example. In this particular case, this church, because it was a church, was given an exception to build much larger than allowed on the lot. So I like that question, because one of the challenges was the footprint of this house does not conform to its zoning. So when we took it back to residential use from commercial, because it actually started as residential, and then they turned it into a church. They built a church here, and then we were going to go back, but the church now exceeded all the parameters of the lot sizes and dimensions. So we had an option. We had to decide, do we tear this completely down and adhere to the existing regulations, which would make this house half the size, or do we try to make the case that we're going to leave the footprint but just build up? And so that was a back and forth with the county, but we prevailed, because we said we were going to leave the existing footprint, but we were going to go up, but we have no eaves. If you noticed, maybe on the walkthrough when we started outside, there's no overhangs on this house. So they're like, we'll put another story on. We'll allow you to do that, but we will not allow you to go beyond the exact dimensions of the existing building. So I said, okay. So then that also drove the thought about how we were going to design the house as well. So then we couldn't put any, a typical 1 foot overhang on a house. So then that really kind of helped steer a little bit thought and said, hey, what can we do here that fits within the parameters that'll be so cool that people would just say, hey, they won't even consider that there's no overhangs. And so we came up with this design. But all those things are good to research ahead of time if possible. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do so because you need to move quick. But in this case, we've been doing this enough where, it's one, easy to research. If we don't know something, we can get the answers pretty quick. But two, a lot of this, we already kind of understand what the general parameters are. And we also know that if we go before city council, what they're most likely going to, adhere to or concede or say no or yes to. So we try to have it figured out as much as we can. Naturally, it's not 100%, but we're pretty well confident that it'll work. And if not, we also have an alternate plan. So
yeah, I'd like to add the process is not like this, like some people think. Oh, I put my paperwork in my plan, they approve it or they don't. It's like an emotional roller coaster, right? You probably know this because you say that the zoning code allows this, you go there and they say, well, we don't agree with that, we're going to change our mind, or the neighbor doesn't like it or something. So then you have to be very, you have to have charisma, but also be smart and know what you're talking about. But Jay was great at navigating through that, because I think there was probably about 3 times they tried to deny it or tried to make you change it. But you have to push on and say, we're gonna do the right thing here, but you guys, you can't be too strict on us, because it's gonna sit as a vacant building and it's gonna bring the neighborhood down.
Yeah. Do you find Arlington to be pretty cooperative when it comes to zoning and these changes?
They're good. Yes, I appreciate everybody down there. They obviously, one of their main concerns is that, for example, in order to get this approved, we need to have a neighbor approval. And so, like in most jurisdictions, so you need to knock on doors and make sure everybody knows what's going to happen, and make sure they can say that they're in agreement with it. But we found Arlington to be very helpful, while still considering the surrounding properties and neighbors, which rightfully so they should. But also giving the investor / owner the ability to do per the zoning code and try to kind of smooth anything out if there's something in place that somebody's not happy with. Yeah.
Right. I think if you pitch like the value add, they're really cooperative. I have a friend that lives in Arlington, in Clarendon, actually. He turned his garage into 2 separate units, and he Airbnbs them. So,
whoa, really?
Yeah, so he turned his garage, there's like kitchenette and a bathroom in the garage. And on top of that, there's like a dormer, which is a separate unit as well. So he's Airbnb 2 separate units from his garage, and Arlington County they're okay with it.
That's phenomenal, because that's a tough one to get over, I'm sure, for him.
Yeah. That's awesome.
John, we're already getting a question from the audience that sort of mimics the question we were going to ask. So,
all right.
The audience wants to know who does what in your company. Does Rachel do most of the design? Can you describe what you guys do? So they actually copied our question.
Yeah, so I do most of the design, picking out the selections and the colors, cabinets, countertops, fixtures, doing all of the shopping for everything, which luckily we live in this era of time where most of it can now be done online. And then I'm a licensed realtor, so I also I list the home, I do the marketing, I put all the marketing material together, the listing. We'll host the open houses if we're allowed to have them, and that whole side of the business, negotiate the deal. But we do that together, really. Yeah.
I don't do anything, actually. I'm over here just having fun looking at this place. So
and collecting the check and not collecting the money.
Well, that one I do actually, so that's good, right? Yeah. So like Rachel was saying, most of the design and the color palette, lighting. I mean, the layout. A lot of the stuff she really just dives in and just puts her all into it. And I'm part of the execution, right? As far as making sure that our zoning process goes well, that we can get a good set of plans from an architect, that all the structural components are resolved, that any structural issues that we can work through. So I really handle getting it from idea to an actual tangible, home like where we are now. So really a good compliment.
Yeah, that's awesome. To kind of expand on that, I'm sure if you guys read a book, say like Traction, do you guys split the roles of, say, visionary / operator at all, or how do you guys handle that?
We do. So we figured this out early on, on the things that we were good at, but also that we like to do. So Jay handles, he runs the show on the projects. He oversees all the construction, make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do on that side. We collaborate on the design a lot. We, go back and forth on on what looks good or doesn't look good. There's some arguments sometimes, but we always come to an agreement. And then I focus on the little things, the shopping for the materials and the real estate side of it. And I think we've done a good job of staying in our lane. We don't, I don't ever pick up the phone and call the plumber and say, hey, do this, this, and this, kind of go around him. He just handles it. And same thing on my side. He's not going around doing any of the real estate side of things or some of the design stuff unless we have a clear understanding that, we're temporarily switching a role. So I think for us, that's been important to keep it going. It limits the arguments about things. We don't step on each other's toes when it comes to that. It's just the only thing we really argue about are some of the designs. So I'll say, oh, I want something this high. And Jay's like, no, it's this high. I'm like, well, you're 6 feet tall and I'm 5'5". So let's, figure it out. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
so,
awesome.
It's really cool because it's kind of like been organically created where it's kind of an unspoken fact that we all just do. So I've been in real estate. I got my real estate license right out of high school. So I've been doing this stuff forever. So the fact that, I understand it really well. I can chime in and give advice or suggestions, but the thing is to respect everybody else's position, right? So I know that she's going to give 110% because I'm going to give 150. And so we're going to go all out on this thing. And if we give each other the freedom to be able to get creative with our piece, we end up with things like this, with homes like this. And it's incredible. And the response from our visitors, from everybody, is just amazing. And so we've learned that, we all need our space to do our best work. And for that reason, there's no micromanaging in any way. There's like, hey, we know you got this. And Rachel and our team knows that the construction, they know I got that. And so we're able to really execute, really well. There's always issues with things, but we always get through them well.
Right. You touched on a point earlier. You said you got into real estate when you were 18. I'm kind of curious, how did you guys get together in terms of doing this business together? What's the backstory with that?
So we didn't technically meet in the business. I was working with a hard money lender for a little while as a job. It's where I learned a lot of this. And then I started doing my own flips, like one a year, right? When you first start, and it's a nightmare. And I met Jay, a mutual friend of ours, introduced us and said, you guys should meet. Jay's really good with the construction side, and Rachel, I can see you're struggling very bad with it. So we met, and then the rest was sort of history. We worked together first before we dated and got engaged and that whole fun stuff.
Yeah, so it was really cool. So we have a mutual friend, and this is a really quick story, who was supposed to show me at the time. I've been flipping houses since then, from before we met. And so he called me and said, I got this great deal in Capitol Hill. You got to take a good look at it. And I'm like, well, all right, no problem. Let me go check. He's like, I'll meet you there tomorrow at X time. And right, you know how it works, right? So he has a deal, but somebody else.
My deal.
Yeah, exactly. But it still seemed to make sense. So then I said, hey, all right, let's take a look at it tomorrow. And then I'm driving there, and he calls me. He's like, man, I won't be able to make it. And I'm coming from Virginia, right? It's not very far, but in rush hour traffic, because it was like 4 p.m., I'm like, man, you're not doing this right now, brother. You're leaving whatever you're doing, and you're coming down here. And he's like, man, I promise I'm going to get somebody else out there to show you the place. I'm like, well, I don't know that somebody. We're supposed to walk through this deal together. So I was a little bit aggravated. Nonetheless, fast forward, she's there. And so now we're here. So that's cool, right? So thank you for not showing up, friend.
Yeah. Thanks for trying to sell my deal.
Yeah. We ended up not doing that deal, by the way, but we've done many others since, right?
Nor did we talk for months after that meeting. So it wasn't, again, it's one of these type of, that's life. Right?
That's a house flipping story I've never heard before. No one's ever told me they once looked for a deal and they got married next.
That's cool, right? I'm telling you, man. It's like, so serendipitous is weird. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know we want to go to this next segment here, and you guys have talked about designing with sort of the end user in mind. And I think that's a really novel concept that, especially for the folks who are newer, they may not understand that. I used to actually have someone that griped at me for years. He's like, you're gonna build that, and that, and like, who's gonna buy it? So I think the concept of you guys, picturing who the buyer is up front is really novel. Can you guys elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think it started, this has been, I think, like many folks that do this for a while, it's been an evolution for us. We started, flipping and saying, hey, this is what the neighborhood comps look like and sell for, the size specs. So we have to kind of fit in that box to make sure that we're making our margin. So it's very transactional initially because, a lot of people look at it like that. But then you find out that sometimes we have some fun with it. We'll say, hey, let's do a fun accent color or the door color. And you start to get this really positive feedback from buyers that come through. One thing that is really important, I think, for anybody who's flipping is to be at your actual open houses, even if you're not the agent. You can tell people you're the assistant to the agent, just to hear what people are saying, because you'll be surprised at what they point out and what they don't even notice. We've worked with so many other investors where they, some folks say, I spent so much money, I put in slate walkway, but the inside layout is just awful, and it's like, well, that's not really what people care about. So we started taking risks on the design, on the way that the house looks and the finishes with the colors, and the layout always is number one. But then you have to go beyond that with the colors, and you have to really listen to what your buyers are asking for. And also, just watch any episode of House Hunters on HGTV, right? The couples never agree, but how can we build a house where both of them are going to love something? So that's where our dynamic works, because I have the women's input, and I look at it from that perspective. And Jay also has the man's input, and he's like, no, this is stupid, I really want this, kind of thing, or the color scheme. So we try to mix that. And we don't always go the biggest, baddest house in the neighborhood, even if we're allowed to. We try to stay within a reasonable price point for people that are just going to be so over the moon crazy about the product, and they can afford it. They're like, this is in my budget, and I get this amazing house. It looks like it was on, in some Southern California design magazine, even though we're not paying those prices for the fixtures we're putting in, because we just spent a lot of time sourcing the material that looks super high end.
Yeah,
That's
and then that's right. And so then I come in and I'm like, I'm the real risk taker, right? So I'm like, I do care what people want, but I also care what I want, and I want to see something totally different. And we're gonna go crazy on this thing. Not completely crazy where you get like, a pink house, but we've done a black house before. It's really cool. Black doors, black windows, black paint, almost black. And it was called the Black House on the street. And it was like so different, but the feedback was like so amazing, because it was like, I'm so glad somebody actually goes out on a limb and actually takes a little bit of a creative freedom in expressing this canvas, which is a home, a little bit differently than everybody else on the block. So that really works for us. And I may go too far sometimes, and she'll reel me in a little bit. So there's a good balance there. Yeah.
We try to, a lot of people, when they first start out in the business, they're told, okay, you buy the house cheap, you fix it up for cheap, you get all the cheapest material you can find, and then you sell it for high. But what happens is the buyers have caught on to that, the end buyers. They're like, this looks like the same old typical junk that they've seen. Not to say it's junk, but it just gets boring to some people. They've seen 10 houses that look the same from 10 different investors. But then, for example, they'll walk into a house like ours, and they just are filled with this emotional response, an overwhelming emotional response to the home. They're like, this is not like anything I've seen before. And again, it's not like the house is a sphere and we're doing some crazy international architecture.
That's a good idea,
But it's just, you look at the competition that you're going up against and say, okay, I know the size, the specs, the home that I need to build. How can I make this just a little bit more interesting for people, to where they walk in, they walk through, and they feel home, they love it. And it's also on par with a lot of the current design trends. So you have to be on top of what's going on in California, what's going on in like Austin, Texas, what's going on in Seattle, where all the tech hubs are. This amazing sort of wave of fun architecture comes through that young people are attracted to, and it's all over Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, design shows, so pay attention to that as well.
Would you say those areas are kind of leading the way in terms of design trends?
I would say California, just in general, fashion and design, they've sort of always set the bar. One, because people just have so much money in those areas that they can kind of just spend whatever to get a certain look. But then what happens is you have a lot of other brands that start to copy them at a lower price point. So they say, hey, you can get a range that looks like a $15,000 commercial range, but it only costs $3,000. So you can get the same look without having to spend $40 million on a house.
Right. So Jay's doing a lot of the construction part of it and handling that part of it. I'm kind of curious, how'd you get into that contracting side of things? Like, was that something you've always been involved with? Because you mentioned you were an agent when you were 18. How did you get into the whole construction side and contracting side of it?
Well, I've done construction for work for as long as I can, that I can say that I've been, or from the beginning rather. So, in high school, middle school, I would do construction on the weekends to get some extra money.
So that was your day job, essentially.
Yeah, while I was in school, put myself through college working with my hands, and so I really enjoy that. I really appreciate that. Naturally, we've progressed far beyond that at this point, but I still enjoy getting my hands dirty. So to answer your question, it started way back, and I like tangible things. I like to put things together. I like to understand how things work, and how to take things apart and put them back together, and make them better. And so for me, it's just been part of my life, and I just improve on it every, as often as I can, as much as I can to be the best at it. But so I've been doing this for many years, and I really enjoy it. Now the real estate side, I was director of sales for a real estate firm out of Capitol Hill for a while. That company was sold, which was great. But it wasn't so much what my calling was, even though I love real estate and I'm part of the analysis of every deal. I do a lot of the funding as well, procurement and such. And so I enjoy everything real estate. I just want to be here creating these masterpieces, which is where I really thrive.
When did you make that transition between, working in the construction business to actually being your own contractor?
Well, because I was building homes for other people, for other companies. They'd hire me like either on a project by project basis, or they'd say, hey, there's a subdivision that we're doing. There's 15 homes in them, and I would charge a fee. And I would say, hey, my fee is X, and I will get all those houses built in this amount of time. And then I would, when the project was done, after a couple of times, I would look at what I was getting paid. And then I looked at what all these houses were selling for. And I'm like, I just built these 15 houses for this guy who didn't come here at all. I'm like, what am I missing here? Right. So I'm like, all there is that's missing is just the cash. And so then that became the pursuit of trying to kind of emancipate myself, if you will, from like day-to-day stuff with other folks, as a job. And then that's where I would get into the financing side. And so we're able to do it now for ourselves. So that was kind of that transition where it's like, I enjoy doing this so much. I don't want to stop, but I know that if we're in full control, if I'm in full control of this and how it goes, I have a lot more say on the design and how things get executed. Because, anybody that knows me will say that I just don't give on what we do, man. It's like we play to win every time, and then there's no exception to the rule. And so, I realize that some folks don't play under those same rules. So I'm like, well, I don't want to play that game. I want to play to win every time. And so 100%. Doing it for ourselves.
Yeah, I love 100%. So were you doing that before you met Rachel, or were you guys already together when you made that decision? How did that play out?
Yeah, so I was doing that. No, I was already on my own by the time I met Rachel. Yeah, so I was already doing my own thing, flipping my own houses and rentals and such as well. But so it happened a few years prior. I taken the leap and said, hey, I can't. I got to switch it up here. Me, I want to do that sphere. Now it's in my mind, the sphere she brought up, the sphere of a house. I'm like, so it's just like just pushing the envelope,
The coronavirus anti.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Keep the virus, right?
Right.
One thing that attracted me to Jay on the business side of things was that he's very committed to putting out an excellent product, and that has really driven the growth with our business and with the houses. It's like every house we build just gets better and better, which is a challenge on the investment side, because sometimes you get attracted but to some low-hanging easy, like kind of lipstick job, and you're like, no, we can't do our best work there. We have to go to the areas and the type of house you can put your best work out. Because Jay, when he's really set loose to do what he really wants to do, he just puts out an amazing construction product, and he'll go beyond what even the code requires on certain things. And it's very impressive. And then when it all comes together, it's like, wow, you walk in. Every single project we've done, we're always like, it's going to turn out nice. And we always think that all the way up until the final cleaning day, when the cleaning crew comes and cleans up, we're like, oh yeah, this is nice. This is really nice.
Yeah. So
I really liked your thought process on this. I haven't heard that before, but I mean, growing up in Seattle, like being from like a tech city, I see like elements of contemporary homes out there in this home you're standing in today. It's really cool. So I see what you're saying, like you sort of see what the consumer is looking for in that type of market, like that tech savvy maybe consumer, and then you take risks with certain elements to make it really pop. Was the dog shower like one of those elements? Because that's something I haven't seen before too. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, that it's probably just me looking at Pinterest and Instagram and all the design magazines. That trend started popping up more often recently. A lot of mudrooms with this dog wash in it, and I thought that's kind of. At first, I thought it was funny because we don't have a dog either. I thought, well, that's a pretty serious commitment. But we do have 2 young sons now. So now that we have 2 toddlers, I understand that it could be also for kids that, go out and get messy. So I thought that makes sense.
The dog shower.
Yeah, even if you clean your muddy boots off. But that was something that we did pull from, we see these multi-million-dollar beautiful homes, and we pull ideas from that. And we're like, we want that in our house. If you guys have seen those panoramic doors that open, they're like 15 feet wide, and it's like the whole wall. We've gotten quotes for that. I can't tell you how many times, because we're like, we have to put that in one of our homes. It's always so expensive, it doesn't make sense. But one day it will. And that's what we're on the design side. We're always striving to bring in these like amazing elements into homes that are still affordable for most people around the area. And they attract the younger people, the younger tech kind of crowd that's interested in that style.
Absolutely. I think you guys mentioned earlier you guys would often have kind of discussions on what to put in, what not to put in. You guys are different heights and different perspectives. I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the challenges you guys deal with when it comes to being married to your business partner? Because that's a completely different dynamic there. It's not just any business out there. You guys are also partners at home. So what are some of the challenges there?
I think the appropriate question is what aren't the challenges? Because man, I'm telling you, it's I love her, right? But 24/7, baby, and so it gets a lot. It's a lot. And then you add quarantine to that, right? And now you're just like, boy, we need a vacation. We gotta get here. But there's a lot of great to be said, and there's a lot of challenges for sure. The time commitment is very, very high, and you're constantly working with each other. But I think one of the great parts of it is that this is, I think, what's helped us kind of distinguish our roles, because I'm out on the field. I'm out a lot, right? Looking at deals, getting deals done, closing deals, closing table, getting the construction done. And so I'm able to kind of step away from, our office where we work together and just gives a little space. So we, again, have that creative ability to just kind of be ourselves and do what we do best. And so the time would be one, the time commitment. And also, I think that one of the things that's helped us so much is that we just like organically fell into just let each one do their thing, man. That's it. Because when you start to micromanage, it doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for me, with employees and such. It hasn't worked really anywhere. But also, that being said, is you have to find the right people that don't need to be micromanaged. And so I think that we found a really good synergy, and that really helps drive this thing forward. And so, the challenges are many, but also getting through them and feeling the accomplishment is also so great, because that's just another hurdle to cross. But the project is even that much more rich, and the fabric of the project is even that much more complex, which is interesting to me and us, I think.
We are live with Rachel and Jay Zelaya from the Zelaya Companies. If you guys have a question, please post it up. Karen Corrigan is actually calling me out for not having seen a dog wash before. She says, how do you not know about a dog wash? We have a question coming in from Kenny Ken. He's asking, how do you guys find good architects, and who do you guys use?
We use several. And I think the key is for us, what's worked for us is having a good architect, but also a coachable architect, and that's somebody who's not too hard set on doing things their way. Because of all the architects we work with, Jay always figures something out that needs to be adjusted, right? So somebody who's, the flexible ones, they care about their design as well, but they're also open to changing some ideas.
Yeah, so I've been doing this, like I said, the folks who used to design the homes for the people I did some, building for, just through the years, the architects that we worked with, we built good rapport with. It's really just a long-standing relationships, to be honest. And the fact that they understand that when they're dealing with the construction side of this business that we do, they're dealing with me, and it's, as much requests 110% from them. And so I give a lot of input, which helps them understand what the vision is, but still giving them freedom, right? So I tell them kind of what the general idea is, and then they'll run with it, and then I'll adjust and tweak and some of the design as well, like how big does this need to be? So really, to answer that question, it's just, folks we've worked with before. And we try to keep, the same folks around, just because they really understand kind of our process and what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think the best way we've always found to find a good architect is referral, word of mouth referrals. It's been hard for us to just, look up somebody and find someone that we mesh well with. Ask permit expediters, ask other builders, ask other, investors to share, and then you'll find out who is used over and over again often and who is not. Yeah.
Makes sense. Jad is asking, how do you guys finance your homes? He says the holding cost must be insane for that one.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm trying to get into this other segment on that one, because that's a whole nother long topic, but there's several ways, right? When you do this business, as you guys know, John and Josh, there's several ways to do it. You can do it with cash. You could do it with, a lender, a bank, or a hard money lender. You could do it with investors, friends, family. And so we do it like in so many different ways. And so isn't one size fits all for any project. So it really depends on the project, the size of the project, the time and that kind of thing. So it's really tough to answer that, because it's, every project is different. And so it would depend, really. So we do a little bit of all.
What's like the first choice?
Well, I don't know if there's a first choice, is there?
I'd say it depends. I mean, if we can finance it with a commercial bank, they're usually lower interest, but they do require higher down payment, and they do want 30 to 45 days to close.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want full construction documents before you're even approved for zoning. And that's where a hard money lender would come in other cases, especially if you stay more local, because we work with national hard money lenders and local. The local ones have a better appetite for these type of projects where it's like, this is it's too much hair on it, they say. It depends on the speed on which the seller needs to move. So there's a lot of factors. So you sort of, you want to keep a handful of 3 to 5 lenders that are familiar with you and they're ready to go with you, so that you could basically present the deal to all of them and choose, and they'll all give you their terms, and you can work with whoever's gonna, give you what's gonna work best on that project.
And to bridge the gap, you can either, use your own cash or bring in friends and family or investors on, to help bridge that gap between what the lender, hard money lender or institutional lender will require. That's one way, or bring your own cash, that's another way. So
yeah, absolutely. Do you want to give any shout outs to any hard money lenders that you guys like that are still lending right now?
What kind of pitches do we want? So I think they're going to have to earn that one.
Yeah.
All right, I hope they're listening. We want a couple points off the next time, and you're on the next video. We'll throw out some stuff.
Yeah, well, it's the same. I think the same few that I think a lot of you guys know around here. There's Dominion Financial still working. I think Washington Capital Partners is still doing some stuff right now. Yeah. There's a national company called Lending Home that's still working. And the small commercial banks, if they're not closed down, a lot of them are still lending.
Yeah, and if you have some good relationships with some local banks like we do, they'll make exceptions to who they do this with. And we've been fortunate enough to have some actual banks in the area do some financing, and they have the best rates. And because, they're an actual institution and they're not hard money. And so that comes with time, building a track record that they know, that you can actually perform. But if you're getting started, all of those other avenues really help. So then you can build up and work up to where you can get money a little cheaper on the bank side.
Right. Okay.
Can you give us an idea on what hard money lenders are lending at right now? Like for a Virginia project, what are you guys seeing right now? Is it 70%, 75, 60?
Yeah, I think a lot of you guys know everyone kind of slashed their terms, but we've seen quotes come in between 60 to 75% of value and 80 to 100% construction. It just depends really on how strong the comps are, how low the home of the price is, and a lot of it's weighted on your experience as a borrower. So, have you done these projects before, and that sort of thing. They really look at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm kind of curious. To hear your opinions, but how do you think the real estate's affected due to COVID? It's kind of in our local area, and just kind of what's your approach going into kind of this new age economy that a lot of people are calling this?
Well, one of the things that we've noticed was what I had mentioned as we were going up the stairs. The size of the homes are now actually starting to be a consideration, right? Before it was the homes needed to be big. This house is 2,800 square feet, for example, and the agent who showed it was telling us that a lot of his clients are actually tired of their big homes and they want to, they want to scale down. And it's not like they bought their home 30 years ago. It's only a couple years in, and they're like, it's just too much space. And so I think that this world climate now is helping everyone understand that maybe or rather they're leaning towards less is more. And so the houses don't have to be as big. 1 and 2, also in this area, as you guys know real well, it's quite insular, right? So we have a lot of government employees, military, and so those folks get paid no matter what. So sometimes better, or they even have more work when things are bad. So we haven't seen too much of a downtick, even though we have seen some, but we feel it's not going to be very, very significant, if you will, here in this area, especially here, Arlington, which is primarily our area, is Arlington, Alexandria, kind of the GW Parkway side of Northern Virginia. We haven't seen too much Old Town of of a downtick on it, even though there's some, but the buyer pool is still solid, and they will be interested in buying a great product. And I think that is what makes the difference. If it's subpar, then there will be a challenge in maybe selling the home a little bit. But again, we're in the heat of this COVID thing, and this house sold for over asking same day. And so I think that's a testament to if there's a lot of thought to the design, construction, and location, and you get creative and go all out and give 110%, it works.
Yeah, I think we do hear a lot of agents representing buyers that are buying our places that the buyers are moving from their apartment. So now people are starting to really feel congested and saying, I don't want to be around all these hundreds of other people. I'd rather have my own space, my own yard, so I can just go outside and get some sunlight on my own without, having to walk down a hallway, go down an elevator. So you are seeing sort of a mass, it feels like there's this mass exodus of people getting out of their apartments and condos into single family homes. So the single families, and again, like Jay said, if it's a nice product, they're like, oh, wow, this is going to be a nice place to be stuck for the next, however long this stuff is going to go for.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, your house is a little bit smaller than the other houses. Is it comparable number of bedrooms though, compared to everything else?
It usually is. And in fact, we usually try to get more bedrooms and bathrooms out of the square footage than the other houses. So one thing we started to assess was, our houses, they're selling fast and they get a pretty good price. We usually set the highest price in the neighborhood. But what we're finding is we're setting the highest price per square foot in the neighborhoods, which has been we didn't really plan for that. But, for example, we sold a house last fall in Alexandria. It was only a 1,400 square foot house on 2-level, but we got 4-bed, 3-bath, and we got this amazing master suite and master bath in there that just, sold the house in a day. But if you looked at the specs, every other house in the neighborhood, none of them have that many bedrooms and bathrooms, but they're all the identical square foot and layout. So that's where the design, we spend a lot of time on making sure we kind of squeeze the use of the inside space versus just saying, can we tear down and build a 6,000 square foot house, and that way we can get, 6 bedrooms and whatever. We have more fun working with the smaller spaces and being more creative with trying to get everything that everybody wants in that space.
Yeah, there's definitely a satisfaction when your design is very design efficient, right? It's like you're using every square inch. There's no space wasted. There's no weird jogs coming out of the wall. I mean, that type of stuff just really bothers me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us too. We go in some places and we're like, oh man, this slipper should have caught us. I would have walked this house for free and given them some cool ideas,
Yeah.
And it's like you wasted it's like all this space that could have been used for something, like a dog wash or something crazy like that.
John,
Yes.
we're getting another question from the audience. It's coming in from Hector Valdivia. Hector, how you doing, man? Hector's asking, do you guys have any tips on how to joint venture with somebody else? How would you joint venture with a partner? How does the structure look? What does that process look like? Is basically his question.
I think that Hector, that I think the start would be to analyze who brings what to the table, right? So like, what do you bring to the deal? What is it that you bring to the deal, and what is it that the other person brings to the deal? A lot of times is either somebody has a good construction background and they need funding, right? So then there's a partner or joint venture guy or a person who will come in and help bridge the gap of finance. Then it's sometimes in reverse, right? Where you have some available cash of some kind that you want to invest, and you find a partner that you can JV with to do a deal together. So it would really be, my advice would be, figure out what you bring to the table, figure out and ask them what they feel they bring to the table, and then also try to make sure that, just like us, where you try not to step on each other's toes. There's a cool, really, really cool fine delineated line where it's like, who's doing what, because the last thing you need is any kind of back and forth on, well, I thought I was going to do this, and why wasn't I allowed to do that? Why are you doing this? Why can I be a part of that? And so kind of getting through all of those bumps ahead of time would be very wise, and knowing everybody's role, it would be also completely something that would be worth every minute of investment ahead of time.
One exercise we've done in the past was actually putting a dollar value or a percent of the profit value to each task, each important milestone of the job. So finding the deal is worth X, financing is worth this, selling it is worth this, managing the construction is worth this, sourcing the material. So you have it's all put out there up front. Everybody knows what the value is in those things, so that if somebody does happen to take on more than they thought, at least they know, okay, I'll get compensated, 5% of the profit for this task I'm going to be doing.
That's a great tip. That's great advice. We're actually getting another question from Karen Corrigan, and she's asking, so the house you're saying today is about roughly, 10 minutes from Amazon HQ2, roughly?
I think it's a little further.
Maybe maybe a little bit further than that, maybe 15 to 20.
20 minutes. She's asking, what is the nature of the buyer? Are they a move-up buyer, first-time home buyer? Could you give insight on what kind of person is buying a 125 house right now?
I believe these buyers in particular are represented by a buyer's agent. So we don't know all the details, but it's a younger couple. They don't have any children yet. They're married. I think they're doctors, I think.
Yes,
And
they're meticulous, right? They're like,
yeah.
I'm going to say they're heart surgeons. I don't know that for a fact, but I hope so. Because they're like, I love this house because all the detail, right? So.
And we're pretty sure they're moving out of their apartment to this place, but I don't know if that was a condo they owned or a rental apartment, but they're moving up in size. They were looking at a house that was actually about $200,000 cheaper, but they decided to just go all in because they love this one so much.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, about the buyers, it's a lot of young folks that just want a really nice home that they're waiting longer to buy to get what they want, if that makes sense. Yep.
Gotcha.
Awesome. So what does the next chapter look like for you guys? What's the next step here? You guys continuing on just, doing these fix and flips, doing these developments, or is there a bigger plan, or what? How does this all fit in?
What's the 10-year vision?
10-year vision. All right. Well, we go, well, good. That's one, right? There's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. But I think that what we really enjoy, because that's how I look at this thing, right? I think self-awareness is critical for every human person to try to realize or figure out what it is that what would be success to them. And once that's figured out for us and for me, it's, what I like to do, I love to do. And not so much all about the money, because, the money will come, follow your passion, right? If you're just, like I said, 150% in all the way. So for us, I think that we're going to continue to push the envelope on homes being more design, crazy, but also very functional, and also very much appealing to the crowd who knows that there can be a lot of value in something that can be done in a smaller footprint and not necessarily a huge, enormous house. Because we know real estate here is, honestly, it's hard to find. And so for that reason, it's almost like, we have to repurpose what we have and just improve on it as much as we can. And, sometimes we tear them down because, we feel that's the best use. But if we can work within the space, we try that. So the next step is to, I think, continue putting out amazing products like this home, for example. And, we're continually doing many other things in our business life, as it comes to buying holds, rentals, multi-unit, single families. We're looking at big development stuff too all the time. So I think that the projection is to just continue the growth, but very controlled and very much how we want it to grow, and not just have it, get completely out of hand. But we want to control the growth so that every time we do something and we touch something, that we can hopefully make it turn to gold or as close as we can.
Right. Are you guys, sounds like you guys are gravitating more towards just kind of a lifestyle business rather than kind of a full scaled out, hands off type business, right?
Yeah, so let me. You guys know this, right? So when you're dealing with renovations, right? Every house is different, right? Especially around here, right? If we go to DC, you have the row houses, and if you've done one on that block, 2 blocks over, there's the exact same house with this staircase in the exact same place. All that is exactly the same. So you can actually reuse the plans from the last house and do it again. But that's not fun, man. What's fun is like really getting in and just like tearing it apart and saying this used to have pews all up and down this place. It used to be a church. Imagine that. They're like, a church here, really? There's a house next door. I'm like, I know, it's crazy. And so because every single project is so different, it's a little bit more complex to scale. Because every house is has to be engineered specifically to that house. So we're not looking much at doing 20 row houses at a time or anything like that. We really push the design and the construction to a whole nother level, and we'd rather spend a lot of time and energy on creating one masterpiece than 20 subpar items or houses rather.
Sure.
I have to ask you this. So all the articles out there coming out about migration to the suburbs, the city living is maybe in the post-COVID world not the same thing anymore. Are you guys seeing any impact right now to like the condo or smaller row house market in downtown Washington, D.C.? Has there been any sort of impact to that segment that you're aware of?
We don't.
I know you guys are in tune with the market. I see you guys everywhere, so. You're on the show.
We don't have our hands in any condo developments at the moment, so we can't say much there. But the row houses in DC seem to still be selling steadily. Again, I think the location is very key, where people really want to live in their first choice neighborhood. That hasn't slowed down at all. Now, when you get into some fringe neighborhoods, I'm not sure. But it seems like some people are like, well, maybe I'll wait and see what happens. Maybe I can get a better deal, or maybe not. They don't know. But the certain pocket neighborhoods all over DC, Arlington, Alexandria, they just, the houses just fly off the shelf, and it is people moving from an apartment building in the city to the suburbs. But you're not really in the way out there suburbs. I mean, you're still pretty close. You have a city feel. It's walkable neighborhood. It's just a detached home with a yard. So it's, it's the kind of like the city, the urban burbs that people they're still staying in. Yeah.
We saw our rental condos in DC, so that may be a little indication of what we feel too. We did. So, I'm not so much for. You can't spice them up, man. They're just, when it comes to the repositioning of the asset, there's not much you can do to it. On the inside, you can do some, but they're very big restrictions, and so we want to have a clean palette. So I think that the single families are more kind of our flavor, and I think that's where the most values to be had. Also, with this whole world climate, people don't want to live on top of each other anymore because this has freaked the whole world out naturally. So this is better, I think, for the future.
Yeah. So to answer your question, we haven't seen a slowdown on the single family side at all. It's been actually gone up faster.
I agree.
Due to lack of inventory, yeah.
We're here with Rachel and Jay Zelaya from the Zelaya Companies. We're almost out of time, but if you guys have a question, please post it up and we'll try to get it answered. I actually have a question for you guys. You guys have been doing this for a long time now. What do you think has been the biggest challenge for you guys in this business? What is the biggest challenge? You guys are building new homes, doing amazing renovations all the time. What's that one thing you would point to?
I think there's a couple things. There's so many moving pieces in this business, and sometimes it's hard to determine what you should focus your energies on. A lot of people have 10 different ways to do marketing, and that's just one little step to get to this type of finished product.
Yeah.
So I think it is paying attention to one, we've done every type of flip you could possibly do. Townhouses, single families, we've done lower price point neighborhoods, we're doing high price, everything in between. So easy flips, paint and touch up to tear downs. And I think one of the hard things has been finding what our niche is, because you have to realize you really have to know what your product is you're selling. Not everybody puts out the same product, right? So you can't sell an Android in an Apple store kind of thing.
Yeah.
They just won't even let you. So sometimes we've made that mistake where we put an iPhone out in the, not a Microsoft cell phone neighborhood, and they're like, we're not paying you anything for this house. And so that's on the sale side of it. But then on the construction side, that's just a whole different animal, and that's all Jay there. That's been only you can come out.
Yeah. No, on the challenges, there's always many, and when you're kind of every project is so different. There's always, many, challenges and obstacles that you overcome. But I feel that for us, it's really been finding finding that voice, right, on what it is that we want to do, because we hear these people, people will talk all the time about what, should be done on this or that, or what kind of business works. And ultimately, it's just like, who are you inside for real? Like, what do you want to do, man? Do you want to do condos? Then do condos, townhouses, single families, multi-units, whatever it is. And I think finding that voice, I think we from my experience, a lot of us have a challenging time where it's like, not just do it for others, but like, what is it? What do you want to do? And then do that. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Is whatever makes you is what you should do. And so for us, this is why I'm not interested in building, or flipping, 50 row houses, because it's not who I am, and I won't do it. And so therefore, I can put 150% into what I'm doing because the passion exists. And so finding that passion is sometimes challenging, but I think that once that's found, I think it could unleash something so great.
Finding the audience that appreciates that. In some places you can build an amazing house and they're like, well, the neighbor's house sold for this, so that's all you can get for it. Whereas there's other neighborhoods where you can just almost get whatever price you want to a certain degree, just because that the people resonate with the product. They're like, this is the most amazing thing I've seen. I really want it.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that was a really good advice there. I mean, that's really applicable to, not just real estate. I'm referring to what Jay was saying about, finding that thing that you like, right? You're not just doing some cookie cutter thing just because investor A, B, and C are doing that. You guys are kind of being unique and, kind of really figuring out what it is you like doing, what makes you happy, and, going full towards that, regardless of what other people are saying. And, that's really applicable to like a lot of things in life, because, a lot of people just kind of get this feeling where they kind of lack a little bit of direction. They get some influence from other people, from some of their friends, a little bit more successful, but oftentimes there are all these different things pulling them into different directions. And sometimes it just comes down to kind of digging deep and really figuring out what it is you really want, right?
Totally agree, man. And that transcends business, and it goes into personal life and your relationships and everything, because ultimately, what we do for work is such a big part of our lives that why not do what you want to do? Just get at it and work your ass off. I will say that there's a lot of work in this game, and I know Josh and John, you guys both know it, and I hope that everybody listening knows it, and if they don't, that they understand that, because it is some hard work, especially if you try to follow your own drum and it's not what everybody else is telling you to drum or what music to play. It's going to be a rough one, but it's so worth it. And if you can find that and just spearhead your efforts on it, and then at the end of the road, it'll be where everybody actually praises you for actually having the courage to step out in faith and just doing what it is that you need to do to get where you need to be, because only you can figure that out.
For sure, yeah. So, you guys have a pretty successful business. I think both of you guys have a high sense of emotional intelligence as well. I'm kind of curious, are you guys, plan on doing any kind of coaching or consulting or anything like that, or?
You mean receiving or giving?
Giving.
doing. Yeah, I don't know. I would, I probably do a lot of that stuff without being like solicited maybe on the job site or something like that. But
Just kind of giving open advice. Just to
I don't know,
whoever.
lectures, I still call them lectures. I think there's little tidbits of granules of good advice and maybe some wisdom in there possibly. Who knows? Maybe not. But I think that I've been asked before several times actually to do coaching and kind of get into that whole realm. I haven't dove into that yet. I think that I believe that I would be open to something like that if I feel that I can get around the people that can do what I just explained. And if they're all about that, then I'm all in too. Because remember, my personality type is I'm in. I don't want to half step it if it's just not going to work well with me. It's like if we're going in, and we're going strong, and when you're falling, I'm going to pull you, and if I'm falling, then you pull me, and we're going to get through this thing, and we're going to get to the finish line, and we will finish, and we will be victorious. So I think that not to say that there's tons of people out there, I'm sure, excited about this, but I guess I haven't been in the right frame of mind to say, I'm going to take it up, but nothing's off the table, and one of the main reasons I think is that all the information and knowledge I've been able to get over all these years, that if it could help somebody make their path a little bit easier, I mean, that'd be awesome, just kind of inspiring or just helping through some of the challenges that they may have, understanding finance on this, understanding the construction, how to structure a deal, where, like you asked, like what market segment is best, all of that. So I'm open to it. I'm not sure about Rachel. What do you say?
Yeah, we're always open to new opportunities, and we love helping people. So
Absolutely.
if anybody ever has a question about this, just you can message us on Facebook. I'm in DMV Dealmakers, or we're on Instagram as well. You have our website. You can contact us through there. So we're happy to help, anybody.
Awesome. Are those the best ways to reach out to you?
Probably Facebook or Instagram is better, and email as well, or directly on our website. So all of them come to our phone. They're pretty accessible.
Cool. What's the website URL?
Zelaya Companies, that's with an IES.com.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll put it in the comments section here. Yeah. So guys, any additional questions for Jay and Rachel Zelaya here? I've got a quick question. So it seems like you guys are doing deals in some pretty hot neighborhoods. How are you guys finding these deals? Is it mostly through wholesalers, or just kind of waiting out until something pops up, or?
Yeah, actually, here's a little fact. We spent about $250,000 on wholesale fees in 1 year recently. So if you're a wholesaler, we pay the money.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that was over several deals, but yeah, a lot of it's wholesalers. We really haven't found much on the market, except for some agents who say, hey, I got this state property coming up. Can you guys want to put an offer in, sort of deal. But it's really about the relationships for us, and people that just know us. They know we perform, so we rarely put an offer in where we don't perform, and unless it's an extreme circumstance.
Yeah, we don't put an offer in.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't.
So, yeah.
I mean, unless they lie to us about something we didn't know. But yeah, that's really it. We do have direct to seller marketing channels as well. So sometimes we just, sellers know us, they see our signs, they know what we do, neighbors talk, referrals. And so we have direct seller access as well. So they say, hey, you buy my house, and then we, go from there.
Yeah, the relationships are great. So, for example, the one of the agents who showed this home would say, hey, I have a whole bunch of buyers who's looking for this exact product. And so then we actually start a collaboration with them and actually are able to do business beyond this one deal. And we know a lot of wholesalers who have built a lot of good faith with a lot of trust, where, they bring us the deal first because they know we will perform if we say we will. If we say the deal's on, it's on. And so that gives them a lot of reassurance. And so there's a lot of many avenues and channels, realtors, friends and neighbors and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of a cast a big wide net, and not just from one source.
Awesome.
Guys, we've been live today with the Zelaya Companies, Rachel and Jay. They spent $250,000 on wholesale fees in 1 year. So if you guys have a deal, you want to reach out, hit them up on Facebook, IG, ZelayaCompanies.com. You guys have the final thoughts. What are your final thoughts here?
What you got, man?
We're just we're grateful to be on the show. Thank you to anybody who's chimed in and watched us. We're really excited to share our product. I mean, Jay and I have been talking. We're always like, we need to be on video more to tell people about what we do, because it's just how much we love the process and how we're so focused on putting out such a nice product for people. We get in heated discussions because we're like, it has to be excellent, and we would like to share that more with the world. So thank you guys for listening to us, and we hope what we can grow, and you can kind of follow us along and see some fun projects we're working on coming up.
Yeah, thanks for having this platform, guys, for everyone to kind of ask questions, and because we can all learn something from each other, right? And it's very great when we're given the opportunity to share and other folks can ask, and then vice versa. So that platform is great. And my takeaway would be, if this business is something that's interesting, dive in, but get that passion. Try to be as self-aware. Self-awareness is critical. And I think that if after all that study you end up here, then give me a call. We can figure something good out. And two is, you could have so much fun putting out something that really rings to your spirit. And if so, just power on, and more power to you, because it will work out.
Phenomenal product, guys. I love the house. Looks awesome. You guys utilize every inch of that thing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us. Take care. All right.